Good morning, everyone. It is wonderful to be here with you all today. I have to start by saying that I'm a very perky morning person. And I woke up at 5 a.m. excited and thrilled, and even it was Saturday, and I was talking with Matt Potter on my way in, and he said, "It sounds like you're a little bit like our golden retriever." I told Matt I will not dance for treats. I want to start by just saying how lucky I am to work for Mandy Cohen. You know, we have all had bosses in our lives who are lovely people and who are motivated deeply by the work that they do. And I spend a lot of time recruiting folks, and when I'm recruiting folks, I tell them, you know, you're gonna have to be able to dive in deep because I have a boss that dives into the details. And I have the pleasure of working for her and her just constant perseverance and pressure to make sure we are doing every single thing we can, looking at every single detail we can to improve the health and wellness for all of North Carolina. So please join me one more time giving another hand. Some of you know that I have kicked off a round of town halls around the state, and I'm looking forward to coming to a town near you and sitting down with you and talking and listening about what's going on. And in the course of leading up to this, I of course travel around a bunch anyways, and I've gotten to know a lot of folks, and I wanted to start with a story that I think captures the state of our mental health system in North Carolina. So I've of course changed the name and some of the details to respect her privacy, but this is an absolutely true story. And it's about Mary, who's 61, living in Western North Carolina, and over time had some mental health issues and just started getting sicker and sicker, was confused. Her family started to worry about her. She got to the point where she could not maintain her own daily care. Her family members kept checking in more and more, and eventually, they sought help. There wasn't good places for her to go. They were confused. They weren't sure. There were a bunch of different numbers to call. 911 didn't seem right. They weren't sure how to manage the emergency. And eventually it resulted in Mary having an involuntary commitment to a psychiatric outpatient or private psychiatric hospital. So Mary got there, and she continued to get worse. Her family was concerned. There were a lot of rigid rules. They weren't sure how to work with the hospital. And Mary also had some underlying issues with her physical health. And as she got more sick through that experience, at some point her family came in and found Mary laying on the floor, almost in a catatonic state, laying in her own excrement. And at that time, her physical illnesses had escalated to the point in which they decided they needed to move Mary to a different hospital to get physical care. And so they moved her. And at the new hospital, they were able to start to work to stabilize her physical illnesses, but her mental illnesses continued to get worse. She wasn't getting the treatment that she needed, and now confused because of everything that was changing, she began to get agitated. And she began to act out, and she was swinging her arms, and she spit on a nurse, and in swinging her arms, hit the nurse in the stomach. And in reaction to that, the nurse called hospital security, and they issued a criminal citation. That citation went before the district attorney, and luckily the district attorney did not seek charges. And Mary has found the care that she needs, and she has down her path to recovery, but how sad that that's how far it had to go. And when I hear stories like that, I hear how our system is broken. I hear how rural access for mental health services is not available. I hear how a crisis system is not built to sustain access so that there is no wrong door. I hear how we have varying levels of capacity among our providers in our state and how we all have to challenge each other to continually raise the bar. I hear how physical healthcare spaces feel like they don't have to do psychiatric care and there is not robust integration. I hear how we have systemically criminalized psychiatric illnesses and the symptoms that come with that. And I hear how there is hopelessness for families who don't know what to do. And so it is for Mary and all the other stories, and many of you, that we at the department, and in particular in my divisions, work passionately every single day to try to serve this state. And you heard the Secretary talk about access and integration. And those are the two big buckets in our vision, our behavioral health strategic plan that we put out some time ago, that captures how we see our path to changing the state of things in North Carolina. But I want to dive in a little bit into those concepts. So first, integration. What does it mean to me to be consumer-centric? And I just want to say, everything that's coming out of my mouth are things I hear from you. I have the very lucky job of having a lot of experts in this room who tell me what we need to do. Thank you. And I am convinced that what consumer-centric means is first and foremost the slogan, the motto, the mantra of nothing about us without us. And we have to work together. And what that means for me is more than just having folks at a table. It is more than just having a meeting and showing up. It is about how do we build systems around people and not wrap people around systems. I challenge my team to think about, we are no longer interested in where our bricks are and the people within the bricks. We are interested in where our people are, regardless of where they are. How do we truly wrap the care that we must provide around individuals? Second, I think it's the challenge to ask the question, what is true integration? And yes, it's about coordinated care, and in mental health, it is particularly important. It's about reaching across those hospitals like Mary experienced, but it is so much more than that. It is about going to every single system where our folks are and helping them. What do I mean by that? I mean that 70% of people in prison in North Carolina screen positive for substance use disorder. And I can try really, really, really hard to improve the public mental health system, and no matter how good I polish that, I will never touch those people. Because as designed today, we are in one bucket. It means that for the families, 50% of children in foster care today, we are rapidly approaching this rate of 50% of children in foster care. One of the reasons that they have been removed from their parents is because of a contributing factor of substance use disorder. It means that our schools and the concept of school safety can no longer mean a metal detector. It must mean how do we provide counselors and support for mental health access in schools. So I am constantly challenging my team and myself to go further in reaching out to where our people are in North Carolina, because I believe that our mission is about improving the health and wellness of North Carolina, period. And I think that behavioral health and IDD supports provide an excellent set of tools that can do that and can contribute to the overall health and wellness regardless of where people are. And so I want to talk a little bit today, diving in deeper into how I see us doing that. And you will remember last year while I was here, I told you, here's what I plan to do in 2019, and today I am here for you to hold me accountable to say this is what we got done. So we have gone through a painstaking process at the division to set up incredibly ambitious goals. And while I'm not within earshot, if you'd like to ask my team what they think of that, I think you should. Because it was really hard. It is really hard to make ambitious but measurable and integrated collaborative goals to achieve for a system and then to say this is what we're going to do. And so we've come up with goals, and they're built around 5 key areas. The first 2 are access and integration. I've dived in that already. And the third one is system performance. How does our system perform, right? I'm not looking past the fact that the system we have for the public mental health space needs to be better. It needs to work better. How does that work? That is absolutely center, in fact, it's in the center of the goals, to what we are doing. The fourth is operational excellence. I operate a $2 billion, 10,000 person organization. And if I'm going to ask the mental health system broadly to get better, and if I'm going to work with providers to get better, then I need to lead by example. We have to pay our bills on time, we have to work efficiently, we have to make sure our processes are in place, and we will get that done, and we've been trying to make measurable improvements there. And fifth is this concept of boundless behavioral health. How do I constantly reach out to build partnerships so that our prisons and our jails are providing diversion and care or necessary reentry supports? How do I work with our school systems to make sure that they have the ability to build resilient and trauma-informed spaces? How do we work with DSSs to make sure that our two systems are working together so that if you are touched by DSS, by nature of that touch, you are entitled to behavioral health services in our state? How do I drive that home? And of course, we can't forget about the biggest piece, which is our legacy in North Carolina, which is the legacy of institutional levels of care that must and can and will be changed, in that we must press forward to providing access to community levels of care to every individual with a disability in our state. And we must build the provider capacity, provide the services, and shift the dollars so that that will happen. And of course, our TCLI program is a big initiative, a down payment towards that, but there is so much more to do, and that is a huge priority, and that is what Boundless is to me. Okay. So I want to dive a little bit more into some of the specific projects, right? What do all these words mean, and what are some things? Now, I can promise you that this is not an exhaustive list because they would only give me 20 minutes to speak. And even though I ignore these little light bulbs here, good job, try hard. You may have to just pull me off. What I do want to promise you is that if you go onto my bio page on the department's website, you will find every single thing I have ever said publicly, every single presentation I have ever given publicly. Because of the department, we value transparency. I have nothing to hide. So all these remarks will be there, and also a presentation of every single priority and goal that we have set out will be there. And so I ask you to go and look at that. You can also follow me on Twitter if you'd like to follow a boring person on Twitter. And the link there is, I'm not very clever. I'm just kind of like, and here's an interesting article. Okay. But let me dive in a little bit. So first let's touch, so access, right? So first and foremost is that we're working on a key proposal that we're gonna try to find funding for. We hope to obviously partner with the General Assembly, but that, look for grant funding and everything we possibly can do that will work to reform our crisis system as it exists in North Carolina. As we are in the midst of transformation, it's very clear to us that as we're bringing more players together, we have to think about how do they work together to support that crisis system, how do providers have rates that will sustain them in the nature of crisis folks, and how does everybody pay their fair share, right? Because in the end, at the point of crisis is not the point where we need to be checking an insurance card. And at the point of crisis is not the point where I need to be looking at a W-2 to see if you don't make enough money to qualify for something. We need to have folks walk in and get the care they need. And we also need to be able to recognize that for decades we've been telling folks when you have an emergency, you go to the emergency room, right? And so that doesn't mean that just because you go to the emergency room, you made the wrong choice while you were in crisis. I will happily take an amen or a preach if you'd like. And so we have to be able to work with our local emergency room partners to give them the support that they need to make sure that they can provide the care and to help support folks getting into the access that they need to go to. Okay. Second, how do we develop a justice-involved strategy that helps divert people throughout the moments where we can move them from the criminal justice process into the process of treatment and care? This is a no-brainer to me. And you'll notice here that the underlying effort in all of these is that, frankly, almost every single investment we're looking to make saves money, transfers the system into a place that is more efficient and effective by getting folks to the right setting and the right level of care. If any of you from local town councils are having conversations about how to build new jail space, please call me. Because I have a solution for you, which is, how do you stand up a pre-arrest diversion program that's going to take some of those likely 68% of people in your jails that have a substance use disorder and need to get treatment and not be put in jail, right? I hear sheriffs tell me all the time, we cannot arrest ourselves out of the issue of substance use disorder. I am tired of seeing the same person come into my jail 36 times. I don't have the right tools. We have the right tools. We just have to get the money in the right place. And it's more than just pre-arrest diversion. It's diversion within the courtroom. The behavioral health courts in North Carolina were decimated, and we need to bring them back. How do we do that? We have to invest in jail-based treatment. If folks are in jail, whether it's mental illness or substance use disorder, because folks, we talk a lot about, unfortunately my division's got 5,000 letters in it, my business card's 400 pages long, but the truth is that all these things are connected because it's really just the division of people. And that people have behavioral health issues, they have substance use disorder, they have mental illness issues, they're self-medicating at times. It's incredibly complex. We need to provide the access to those folks in jail as well. And then, if folks do get to the point where they're returning, we have got to be able to give them the supports to get connected to recovery. We need, if they're on Medicaid, and I hope more people will be, we can get the Medicaid turned back on as quickly as possible. Ideally, the federal government would change it so the Medicaid didn't turn off, and that we could get people connected to the care that they need. In North Carolina, it is 40 times more likely that someone will die when exiting prison or jail than the general population because of an opioid overdose. I just want you to sit with that for a minute. You've got someone who has served their sentence in prison, who has done what the court system told them they had to do, and then they leave and they die. Because they either were off of the drugs that they were on before and then they returned to them, the situation has changed, the drug chemistry has changed, their cravings that are chemical and unavoidable and built into their brain drive them to overdose. And so I was really proud, and I'm getting ahead of myself on accomplishments, that we stood up 2 reentry programs last year where we were able to connect folks to care as they were leaving prison to save their lives. We have to continue to grow out what we're doing in justice-involved populations. We also need to work, as I was saying, oh my gosh, it's yellow, she's standing up. Oh, thank you. Turn the light off. Okay, I'm gonna go a little faster, so hold on, folks. Okay, system performance. So this is my third goal. How does the system perform today? And this one I am so excited about, and because I'm a nerdy numbers person, I'm so excited because we have so many resources that we just gotta get in the right place at the right time. And that starts with transparency, right? So we're working to put out a scorecard that will show you our key measures by which we evaluate how the system is working for each LME MCO and tell that story publicly. Because every one of you asks me from time to time, what's the best LME MCO? And the answer is, they're all the best, because some of them do good on one thing and some do good on the other, right? And so you need to be able to know what is happening. And you also need to know what money they have to do the job. Because when you look at 1 million people that are uninsured and $208 million of single stream funding, that's easy math, folks. $208 a person is not enough to meet the services needed for that population. Operational excellence, I talked about our need to streamline our allocation process, our contracts. I know you love your FSR processes if you're a provider. We need to be able to pay those things on time. And boundless behavioral health, I talked about that a lot already. How are we partnering with local communities? How are we moving ourselves into the division to going to a place where I am going to far more publicly push us to put out RFPs and RFAs to get folks to volunteer or apply to get funding from us on the strategies that we know work, so that everybody knows where we're investing and so that everybody has a fair chance to do it. Moving on, a big priority for us is our Olmstead work this year. We have been in the settlement with the U.S. Department of Justice for our Transitions to Community Living Initiative. We've had huge successes in that work, and I'm incredibly proud of the number of people we've moved into housing, diverted from adult care homes, but we need to now step it up. That's the down payment. That's building the infrastructure internally on how we pay for services and standing up new things. But we need a comprehensive plan and strategy to make sure that we are as quickly as possible investing in the necessary resources of housing and employment and supportive services broadly so that folks can live in community and thrive regardless of their illness or disability. So now he's flashing the light at me, and it's turned red, so I'm just going to fly through here because I want to make sure you have time with Deborah. We did a whole lot last year. We delivered on so many of the 2019 goals that we wanted to deliver on. We have provided 12,000 people that are uninsured with treatment. That's a drop in the bucket to what we need to do, but we went really far, and we're hoping that we'll get more resources to do that. We stood up peer support services and community support team. As the secretary said, 250,000 people got crisis counseling services in response to the hurricane. We had folks in behavioral health in shelters with behavioral health services, and that was because of the very clever work of Matt Herr and working with the federal government to pay for that. We're standing up integrated care pilots to make sure we test and understand how good integrated care works for folks with SMI, for folks like Mary who need that care. We work to rebalance our single stream funding so that even though it is not enough, it would be equitable and there would be some sense to it. We've improved several of our internal processes, and we awarded over $13 million in federal grants down to local communities, and we have more on the way. So I want to thank all of you. Again, I've got like 5 more pages, but I just want to end with saying that I'm going to go back to where I started, which is at these town halls that we're doing. And to me, the big picture here, the word that keeps coming to mind is this concept of belonging. And when I'm here, I feel like I belong because I look around the room and I see several of you as friends that we've gotten to know each other over the past several years. Many of us work together. Many of us travel together. Many of you email me at 1 a.m. And I feel like I belong here because we have this common purpose and this common mission. But unfortunately, so many individuals in our state with mental illness and substance use disorder are systemically pushed from their communities and do not feel like they belong. They're pushed out because they have a substance use disorder, and the high likelihood of them is that they go to jail because their illness presents in a way that they get arrested. They're pushed out because then once they're arrested, they have to check a box on a form and it's hard to get a job again. They're pushed out because they act a little different, maybe, because people are confused. They're pushed out because the normal healthcare delivery system is not integrated, and so it's separate. They're pushed out because they have family members that are taken away from them, because they lose their children, because there's not treatment, there's only penalty. They're pushed out because we have not had the moral and heart capacity needed to fix these systemic problems that help keep people in. Everything we are doing is about restoring a sense of belonging for people in North Carolina, and not just the people in our public mental health system, but everyone, so that we can provide behavioral health services in a way that are preventative and thoughtful and supportive so that folks can truly feel at home.